I never thought I would find myself here. Looking back, I wonder if the signs were always there, little cracks in my perfect life that I chose to ignore. But that's the thing about life. Sometimes you don't realize how close you are to the edge until you've already stepped off. My name is Olivia, and I have been married to my husband, Marcus, for 12 years. From the outside, we looked like the perfect couple, a beautiful home, a stable marriage, a life others envied. But beneath the surface, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. Marcus was the definition of a good man: dependable, hardworking, a provider in every sense of the word. He made sure our family never lacked anything. But somewhere along the way, something shifted between us. The warmth we once shared began to fade, replaced by routine and responsibility. At first, I told myself it was normal. Every marriage goes through phases, right? The passion of the early years settles into something steady, something predictable. But at what point does predictability become loneliness? We still loved each other, I suppose, but we had stopped truly seeing each other. Conversations became transactional bills, schedules, errands. We no longer asked about each other's dreams or fears. The space between us grew wider with every passing year. And then there was Adrian. Adrian had been Marcus's best friend since college. They had been inseparable back then, two young men full of ambition, mapping out their futures. Over the years, their paths had diverged, but their friendship remained. Adrian was different from Marcus in almost every way. Where Marcus was disciplined and serious, Adrian was spontaneous and full of life. He had an easy charm, the kind of presence that made people feel seen. And where Marcus had become distant, Adrian was present. For years, I had never seen him as anything more than my husband's best friend. He was just Adrian, the guy who showed up for weekend barbecues, who helped Marcus fix things around the house, who made our kids laugh. But something changed. And to this day, I still wonder when exactly it happened. Was it gradual, like a slow unraveling? Or was there a single moment when everything shifted? Maybe it was the night of Marcus's birthday. We had a small gathering, friends, family, laughter echoing through our home. As always, Marcus got pulled into deep conversations with his colleagues, discussing work, business, things I no longer understood because he had stopped sharing them with me long ago. I found myself in the kitchen, clearing plates, refilling drinks. And then Adrian walked in. "You don't have to help," I said, watching as he picked up a dish and rinsed it under the sink. "I don't mind," he shrugged. We worked in silence for a few minutes before he spoke again. "Are you happy, Olivia?" I froze. The question caught me off guard. I let out a small laugh. "What kind of question is that?" "A real one." I forced a smile. "Of course I'm happy. Why wouldn't I be?" Adrian didn't answer right away. He just looked at me, really looked at me as if he saw something I hadn't even admitted to myself. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: acknowledged. It wasn't about attraction. It wasn't anything inappropriate. It was just the simple, quiet realization that someone had noticed me. From that night on, something shifted. I started noticing things about Adrian that I had ignored before. Or maybe I had noticed them all along but refused to let myself think about them. The way he listened, the way he remembered little details about my life, things Marcus no longer paid attention to. He asked about my day and seemed to genuinely care about the answer. I told myself it was harmless. He was just a friend. But deep down, I knew better. Weeks passed, and I found myself looking forward to his visits. Our conversations grew longer. At first, it was just small talk, books, music, the silly things that made life lighter. But then, without meaning to, I started sharing more. Welcome to Infidelity Truths. Before we dive into today's gripping story, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more thrilling stories just for you. Let's begin. My frustrations, my fears, the things I had buried so deep inside that even I had forgotten they were there. And Adrian listened. He never judged, never dismissed my feelings. He just listened. One evening, Marcus left town for work. It wasn't unusual; his job often required him to travel. Adrian came over that night, as he sometimes did, to check in on me and the kids. After the children went to bed, we sat in the living room, talking about everything and nothing. And then, before I could stop myself, the words slipped out. I wish Marcus looked at me the way you do. Adrian's expression changed. He didn't laugh, didn't brush it off. He just held my gaze. And in that moment, something unspoken passed between us. Maybe he just forgot how, he said quietly. A silence stretched between us, heavy and full of meaning. I stood up quickly, suddenly feeling like I had stepped into dangerous territory. I should get some sleep. Adrian nodded but didn't move right away. Olivia, you're not alone. His words lingered long after he left that night. I told myself it was just a moment of weakness, that it didn't mean anything. But the truth, I had already crossed a line. For days after that night, I couldn't stop thinking about Adrian. Nothing had happened, at least not in a way anyone else would notice. No words were spoken that couldn't be explained away. No physical lines were crossed. But something inside me had shifted. And once that shift happened, there was no undoing it. I tried to act normal when Marcus returned from his trip. I made his favorite meal, listened as he talked about work. He kissed me on the cheek, thanked me for taking care of everything while he was gone. I smiled, told him it was no trouble. But inside, I felt a hollowness I couldn't explain. I did everything I could to avoid Adrian after that. I made excuses when he texted, kept our conversations polite and distant, told myself it was the right thing to do. Then one afternoon, I ran into him at the grocery store. Are you avoiding me, Olivia? My heart raced. I forced a smile. I've just been busy. He tilted his head slightly, studying me. Right, I let out a breath. Adrian, I think we should... You don't have to explain, he interrupted. I get it. I nodded, relieved, but also aching. I turned to leave. Take care, he said softly. I walked away, and for the first time, I realized something. I'd come dangerously close to losing myself. That night, I lay beside Marcus, listening to his steady breathing. I had a choice to make. Love wasn't just about passion or excitement. It wasn't about filling empty spaces with something new. It was about choosing. Choosing to stay. Choosing to fight for what was already mine. And tonight, I was making that choice. The lesson in this story is about temptation, emotional neglect, and the power of choice in relationships. Emotional needs matter. Marriage isn't just about responsibilities. Emotional connection is crucial. Evelyn felt unseen in her marriage, which made her vulnerable to Ryan's attention. Temptation can be subtle. Infidelity doesn't always start with physical betrayal. Emotional affairs can be just as dangerous because they create an intimate bond outside of marriage. Communication is key. The lack of deep conversations between Evelyn and Daniel led to emotional distance. Had they openly addressed their issues earlier, she might not have sought comfort elsewhere. Choices define us. Despite her feelings for Ryan, Evelyn chose to honor her marriage. Love isn't just about feelings. It's about commitment and daily choices. Restoring a relationship takes effort. After almost losing herself, Evelyn actively worked to reconnect with her husband. Love requires constant nurturing. The story teaches that even in difficult moments, we have the power to choose what truly matters. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. What would you have done in Olivia's shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The story teaches that even in difficult moments, we have the power to choose what truly matters.